From WHYY and Billy Penn, it is Hittin season. Hey there, podcast pals. I'm John Stolnis from The Good Fight and Billy Penn. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at John Stolnis. Coming up, 10 questions about this Phillies season. The Phillies right now in spring training, 10 days away from opening day. We are getting up on it here. So I came up with 10 questions that I want to ask my Roundtable podcast co-hosts on this episode of the pod. And so we're going to jump right to it here in just a second. Justin Klugh and Liz Roscher, of course, joining me as on the Roundtable here as we do every week. Follow Liz on X and Blue Sky at Liz Roscher. Elizabeth, how are you this fine Monday night?
I'm doing well. You said the baseball season is closer than ever, and I can certainly feel it. It feels warmer out there. It feels like spring, the sun staying up longer, going down later. It's a miracle. It happens every year, and it still feels like a miracle.
The other night, on Sunday night here in Northern Virginia, it was uncomfortably warm in the evening. Now, it's still too early in the year for air conditioning to get thrown on the house, but anytime, it was like the line of demarcation, you know
get that fan on,
Yeah, the ceiling fans were going on high. First time really since like September, I think we turned on the ceiling fans in the bedroom. So that's the first sign that we're starting to emerge. I think, you have the groundhog. For me, it's when you really, for the first time, want to turn on your air conditioning in your bedroom and you decide it's still too early in the year. Justin Klugh from Baseball Prospectus on Twitter and X and Blue Sky. Not X anymore, just at Blue Sky. I keep forgetting. We miss you over there at X, but I get it. I get it totally. And Justin Klugh at Blue Sky. Are you like, when's your air conditioning cutoff point, man? Like, some people are just like, if I'm hot, air conditioning goes on. I don't care what time of year it is.
Yeah, that's the general approach. Is that if that's, just go with what you're feeling. Our general approach to the temperature of the living space is like everyone just have a cool time. Just like have a chill, cool time. And if you're feeling like you want to have a certain kind of experience, the button's right there. So yeah, I think generally we have a pretty healthy outlook as far as keeping our house the ideal temperature.
It's a very mature look at it. Someone who's not necessarily worried about their energy bills, which I think is good.
What I like to do is crank the window open and then turn that AC up to, I don't know, maybe max force, maybe double max, and then just get a nice cross breeze going. You get that mix of recirculated air, regularly circulated air. It's kind of like what nature intended, I like to think.
It really is. Mm-hmm. It really is. I mean, it does
I
feel like
experience all this while wearing VR goggles and asleep in an office chair in the middle of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. Makes sense to me. Well, what we're going to do here on this episode of the podcast on the Roundtable is we're going to go through 10 questions that I came up with. It's mostly about the Phillies, but we'll kind of branch out into, the rest of Major League Baseball a little bit as well. But we're just going to go down the list 1 through 10 and see what we think about some of these different things. And so we'll start off here, logically enough, at question number 1. The Phillies stressed a lot last year, and we as a fan base kind of stressed out about the Phillies getting off to a fast start. In 2022 and 2023, the team got off to slow starts, and especially in 2022, remember, Joe Girardi was the manager at the beginning of that year, got fired after a couple of months, and it was a mad blitz to get into the postseason. I mean, it almost didn't happen. They barely got in by the skin of their teeth. 2023, it was another slow start, not quite as bad. They had more time. They did a better job of getting themselves into the playoffs. Number 1 wild card as opposed to the number 3 wild card. Last year, though, it was just like, let's win the division. Let's get that bye. Let's get one of those top 2 seeds. Race off to a fast start so you're not scrambling at the end of the season. And so the Phillies did that. They got off to that insane start last year and then just kind of put it on cruise control. There was a malaise. Something happened with the team that they lost that edge at a certain point last year. So I'm kind of curious, Justin, your thoughts on what kind of start you feel the Phillies need to get off to here in 2025. They stressed getting off to a fast start last year. Do you think it kind of messed them up? And if so, was there anything that they can do differently this year? How should they approach it?
It was great because the Phillies played so well in the first half of last season that you saw the cliche pop up of, oh, they only need to play 500 ball the rest of the way and they'll still, have this incredible record. And the Phillies, the problem was the Phillies heard that and then were like, what? We can just, that really? Okay, that sounds great. Let's do that. And they did that. I think the problem with this whole topic, not to flip the whole table here from the first question, the first answer to the first question, is that I don't think the Phillies are really in control of this. Like they can stress winning early all they want, and then they did, but then like that meant, I guess that had to mean not winning later. But did they not intend to also win later? I mean, the intent had to be there the entire time. They just didn't successfully execute for the second half of the season, and then also in the playoffs. So I guess it's like, would I prefer the hot aspect of the season? Like, when would I prefer that to happen? And I think you unquestionably have to say, I'd rather watch a team that falls into a small hole, plays more competitively, and then gets really hot in September and then goes into the playoffs. I don't see how you argue against that at this point. That's a success story 9 times out of 10. Last year, the Dodgers won at least 15 games a month. Every month, except July, when they actually had a losing record of 11-13. Then they came back in August and September and won 35 out of 53 games to close out the season. If you win 15 games a month, that's like a 90-win pace. So I like to think about this team not being hot or cold, but imagine them just being like steady. A steady winning machine, scoring 5-6 runs a night. Sometimes it's enough, sometimes it's not, but the pitching can typically make it stand up. And if you're good all year, you don't have to get hot. So I want to say the Phillies should try to be consistent this time and not get caught up in the whole who's hot, who's cold conversation, but that's not something you can just decide to do. And it's not something that this team is either. I think consistency at this point is a quality that's a lot more fundamental. It's not like, oh yeah, they're coming in and they're going to be they want to be more consistent. No, it's like your height or your eye color. We just know they're not a consistent team, and that's it. We've watched this team try to fight this playoff monkey 3 times, and they keep getting outmaneuvered, but rarely in a way that makes you feel like they never had a shot. Even last year, heading up to Queens after the Game 2 walk-off, you can't tell me people weren't talking themselves into winning 2 games on the road.
Oh, yeah.
So, I guess what I'm saying is, stop trying to control things you can't in consistency, or that you probably aren't going to be able to control, like consistency. Play ball every night in the way that I started talking to the Phillies at some point during this answer. But play ball every night the way that makes you most comfortable, because one thing you do know in this sea of chaos is that you're a really good team that keeps going to the postseason because you're so good. They can clearly execute. There's a collective 19 All-Star game appearances in this batting order on a given night. But they've struggled mentally. And I'm not a mental skills specialist, but I've been reading about guys who've been looking for consistency when they start the season and like what they're talking about and what they're trying to address, in the hopes of finding some kind of answer for the Phillies to say like, oh, maybe this would be a good thing for them to do, to find that elusive consistency. But really all these guys talk about is finding routines, sticking to them, changing them up a bit when they get burned out. Picking dumb little things to rally around, pinning stuff to the bulletin board, photoshopping Mr. Met's head onto the bodies of famous movie serial killers. Stay loose, keep having fun, don't get stuck. Like, this team doesn't need to bring back dancing on my own, but I do think it needs to bring back that kind of level of energy. They were just, that 22 was a looser, wackier team, and 24 was like, no, we have to be really serious and intense about this because it's time to win the World Series, and we've had a couple chances and we blew it. So I don't think moving in the more it's time to get down to business like direction is going to be super helpful for this team. I think they got to just play in a way that makes them comfortable and try to find that level of consistency, so nobody's telling them when they should have won, because they're just not in control of that.
Yeah, Liz, I mean, I hear everything Justin is saying, and I think he's right. I think consistency undoubtedly is the key, but I do think that I think that last year they did seem to be, and the schedule certainly benefited them early in the season. Like we look at and think, oh, they were so great in the beginning of the season, and then the schedule got significantly harder in the second half than it was in the first half of the season, and so that we kind of forget about that. But that and we were scoffing against that notion early in the year. You can only, and they were destroying everybody in their path. But we do remember like how they approached JT Realmuto's injury. There was just kind of like once they got off to that big lead, it did seem like they kind of lost that edge. And so that's what I mean. Like, did they learn anything from last year? Is there anything they can take away from how they approached the second half of the season, decisions that they made, maybe the energy in the clubhouse, as Justin was kind of talking to? Is there a way that they can learn from last year and put it towards this year?
I mean, theoretically, yes, but like, no. Like, the key to this year is they need to not have as many silent injuries among guys who were key players, because that's what happened. They had guys who were nursing long-term injuries that needed to be 100%, that weren't 100%. And what happens every year is we theorize, hey, it seems like this guy might not be 100%. The Phillies say that you have no reason to believe that this guy is anything other than completely healthy. And we're like, okay, but it kind of does seem like he might not be. And we
Bryce
find out
Scott, the chief example, I think.
Yeah, but like in
this,
but it was others throughout the season. Like Bryce Harper was one of them at one point or another. You know, Alec Boehm was one of them. So, you know, the Phillies are going to take what they get from the baseball gods, but like the key is just to remain healthy, really, and have everyone performing well. Like they can, there isn't anything they can learn other than play better. And
right.
That's the eternal battle. If every team could play perfect, what are we even doing here?
Right. Just don't lose your edge. Every at bat should be a grind. Like, don't lose that mindset. Even if you've got a 12-game lead, I keep thinking back to the Super Bowl and some of the behind the scenes quotes, and I keep Saquon Barkley. The whole game is just, it's 0-0. Don't worry about the score. Stay right here. You're right here. Now that's one game. It's easier to do that in like a championship game, to have that mentality than over a 6-month season. But that's kind of where they need to be. Like you said, balancing the looseness that they had in 2022 with the idea that, they got to take care of business here in 2025 and to handle their business and to approach it like whether they're 6 games out or 6 games up, every game is the same. Every day is the same sense of urgency every day going out there. And I think that to me is the key to 2025. Just maintain that sense of urgency and that consistency. And it's really easy. You do that and you're going to win the World Series. Why can't they just do that? I don't know, just weird.
They've got a simple goal, but it's not an easy goal this year. The one thing, they just got to check that box.
That's it. Come on, guys. It's easy. Let's do it. Again, not easy. Simple, but not easy. Question number 2. Liz, I'm going to start this one off with you. Which player can this team least afford to lose to injury?
This one was an easy one for me, and that would be Zack Wheeler. If there's ever a rubber stamp of a player, it's that guy. He'll have a couple of misses per season, and that's to be expected. But he's solid, and the Phillies need him to stay solid in order for everything else to work well. If they lose him, that's a huge problem. So, let's hope that they don't, because he is the player to me that they can least afford to lose. Everything starts at that foundation.
Justin, how about you?
I also said Zack Wheeler just because I typically look past the pitching in questions like this, and I really was trying to devastate myself. And the Phillies' whole strength comes from starting pitching and depth. Like this, at this point in the season, that's when the preseason. That's the narrative about the Phillies is. Yeah, they'll come at you with really strong starting pitching, and they have a lot of it. But how often have you seen the top of a rotation go down? And then that's kind of the isolated incident for an entire rotation throughout the season. It just feels like starting pitching injuries are so contagious, even though scientifically that's not true. It just feels like if your top guy goes down, it just makes it more likely your depth you're going to burn through your depth really fast. Mm-hmm. And I think we've learned that at teams that have had a good amount of depth have learned that lesson countless times, that it can all go away very quickly. Wheeler misses a couple months, and then Sanchez, his arm's sore, and Suarez's shoulder isn't right, and everybody's things that used to haunt them start creeping back in, and it just feels like it so easily becomes a huge mess. And Wheeler being as dominant but also reliable in that position is such a huge, huge thing for the Phillies. It would be like knocking down a statue. And that's just, that for the kind of season they're trying to have and the strengths that they're supposed to have right now, that would just be hugely devastating for them.
Ordinarily, in seasons past, I would have agreed with you, and I think Zack Wheeler, you lose Zack Wheeler, especially for a long period of time, it would be devastating, especially in the postseason. I mean, he's such a great game one guy. He would be really a devastating loss. But because of the strength of the starting rotation, because I think you have, a number one in Wheeler, but then you've got like 4 number twos, like legitimate number twos with potential upside to even better than that for guys like Nola and Sanchez and Luzardo, really, even if he has the kind of year that he had a couple of years ago. I think if you lost Zack Wheeler for a month or 6 weeks or something like that, I think this rotation is better able to handle that. And it wouldn't be as devastating as if they were to lose. And this is the guy that I think, and it may sound weird, but I think if they lost Kyle Schwarber for a long period of time, I think the offense would be in some real trouble, because he is the one guy who is like the legitimate 40 home run threat in that lineup. Like all the guys in the lineup, they can hit some home runs. Like Bryce Harper, like I'm predicting a big home run year for Bryce Harper just because it's kind of a fun prediction to make, but he's typically been like a 30 to 33 homer a year guy, which is good. That's a decent amount of home runs. You're going to be in the top 10 in the league in home runs there, but then everybody else is in like the mid to low 20s or teens. Like Schwarber is a guy who can carry the team, who when he gets that power bat going, like he's the guy who can get a lot of runs on the board in a hurry, more so than anybody else on the team. And if you were to lose Kyle Schwarber for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that, I think that could have I think the effect that could have on the lineup. I think the Phillies would be better able, and this doesn't mean he's more valuable, but I think the Phillies would be better able to handle Bryce Harper being out for 6 weeks than they would Kyle Schwarber being out for 6 weeks. Is that crazy?
The way I kind of approached this as far as taking people out of the lineup was Schwarber was the first one to come to mind. And I think you're right, because he's a player who is so distinct and brings a distinct ability to the Phillies that losing him is you lose that ability. It's not like you're saying, it's not somebody who then slots right in and does what Kyle Schwarber does. So that is, I can totally see that being devastating. But over the years, the Phillies have lost, I feel like, almost every one of these guys for like at least a month or at least a couple of weeks. And every time, I think something that's sneaky good about this team is that they have covered in those areas. Like they've obviously gone through bad stretches, obviously, but it's always like, oh yeah, since Bryce Harper's been out, they're actually like playing better, or Trey Turner's been out and they've actually, they are hitting, they're doing all right despite that. So they find ways to cover when it's a guy in the lineup, I feel. And that's why the pitching aspect is scarier to me, because I don't think we've really seen them suffer that in a big way yet, and we don't know if like the same kind of deal would happen there, despite there being a lot of depth in the rotation.
Yeah, the only thing that makes me feel okay about losing Wheeler is they did lose him for a good period of time. Was it during the 22 run or the 23 run? 23 when Sanchez came in and kind of saved. No, it wasn't Sanchez. It was Bailey Falter. It was the Bailey Falter year. Remember he came in 22 when Wheeler was out for like a month and pitched like a legitimate, like middle of the rotation guy for a minute and a half there?
You can take it from our silence that no, we do
not.
No
one remembers that.
You can take it from
that didn't happen.
The sound of my panicked keystrokes as I was looking to reference that.
Oh, I love how you were looking to reference that. I'm like, I know that happened, but it did not. I mean, I could remember it if I wanted to, but I don't feel like it.
He made 16 starts in 2022, and that was his best ERA of his career that season. So
yeah,
under 4.
He really saved that pitching staff for a couple of months there in the middle of the summer. Unsung hero from the 2022 team. All right, let's move on to question number 3. This was an interesting story Todd Zalecki had out on Monday, noticing that the wind at Citizens Bank Park has prevented 48 home runs from leaving the park over the last 2 years. It has cost Bryce Harper 6 home runs over the last 2 seasons. I have kind of, I mean, it's been well known that Citizens Bank Park isn't the bandbox that it once was, that the place that John Smoltz always used to just annoyingly hate and rip on all the time. But
Still
it's really
does.
it's become park neutral essentially over the last couple of years. And I don't know how all of a sudden now wind is a problem like these last 2 years at Citizens Bank Park. Like what other structures have been going up around the stadium or how it's being moved around? The team doesn't really know. I'm not asking you guys to explain it. I'm asking,
because I have no clue.
No, that's, who knows? But did you guys prefer, Liz, did you prefer when Citizens Bank Park was a Homer Haven, or do you like it now that it's kind of like more of a neutral park? Because I feel like I kind of miss the bandbox days.
I miss that. I miss the bandbox days a lot. That was fun. Home runs are fun.
Yeah,
I enjoy watching them happen. And so I would like to see Citizens Bank Park give it more of those. When I saw this on the agenda that you sent around the show sheet, I thought, I wonder if he has a reason for it. Like, I'm not going to look it up in case it's something really I'm not going to look it up at all. I want to be surprised if it is. And nope, you don't have an answer. Sadly.
No, the team officials quoted in the story didn't have an answer. I mean,
how do they not? I mean, I guess I understand, but I also don't. Like, it's incredible in what we know so little about, and we just continue our lives. Like, we have no idea why there's more wind in Citizens Bank Park now. It does seem like that's something someone might want to look into.
Justin, what do you think, man?
So, I mean, it's fun to think about Schwarber and Harper playing in a ballpark built for home runs, but this can go the other way. The other team also gets to hit home runs.
Yes, that's true.
So in the year Citizens Bank Park opened in 04, the Phillies had this miserable homestand that ended in a loss to the Astros. The Phillies had been up 7-2. They gave up like 7 runs really late, lose the game. They're without, in their bullpen, they're without young Ryan Madsen. They're without Billy Wagner. And Larry Boa's just sitting there at the end of the game talking about, like, oh, well, look, we got a bunch of relievers. They're all trying to hold these 1 or 2 run leads late. Like, I don't know how diplomatically he phrased it, but like, these are not the relievers we had intended to be using in this situation because of the injuries that the bullpen has sustained. And now we're playing in this homer-friendly ballpark with, the game on the line, and a home run is the difference maker. And they wound up on this going like 1-9 on this homestand before they hit the road. So like, it can turn against you pretty easily. And for an offense that's defined itself by inconsistent power, I don't know if the home run haven thing is super valuable for the Phillies at this point.
Fair. That's just all too fair.
Yeah, that is fair.
It's not making sense. I hate it.
Yeah, and I guess neutral is fair. I mean, it really is. And for I guess for this team specifically with the starting rotation it has, you're probably more okay with it, being more balanced than it being a homer haven. But it was a good time. Remember, there was and Todd mentioned this in the story, but there was the controversy of they actually had one of the walls, the left center field wall, misnumbered. Like they said it was actually like 385 or something like that. It was actually 375 or something. Like they just had the wrong number on the wall. I mean,
I must have told you this at the same time, but there's a minor league team president I interviewed once who told me he pretty much did the same thing, where he was like, yeah, I had a guy with a tape measure go out to the wall. He'd yell how far it was from home plate, and I would just say, okay, write a distance that's like 20, 30 feet longer than that. And they just put that on all of the fences. And he was like, yeah, we just did that all the time.
That's great. I don't think that was the CBP method, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Honestly, me either.
Yeah. All right, question number 4. I don't know if you guys saw Spencer Strider made his spring debut here on Monday. I think he struck out the first 5 batters that he faced.
Disturbingly in his element.
Yeah, I think there was some thought he would be back.
I hate it so much. He's back. He's back and it's bad.
Yeah, there was some thought he wouldn't be back until late April. I don't think
he's looking ready.
He's back, and so the Braves have their ace back, and so the question I think is really interesting. I mean, in this division, MLB.com released their power rankings this week, and they have the Dodgers at 1, the Phillies at 2, the Braves at 3, and the Mets at 4. I mean, 2, 3, 4 in the National League East with the Phillies at the top of both of those teams, which I thought was interesting. Which team do you guys think right now, Justin, I'll start off with you, is the bigger threat to the Phillies? Is it the Braves or is it the Mets?
So since 2022 against the Phillies, the Mets are 26-19. And since 2022 against the Phillies, the Braves are also 26-19. And both of those totals are largely due to 2022, when the Phillies lost to the Mets 14 out of 19 times, and the Braves beat them 11 out of 19 times. So, yeah, it's been pretty close since then. They have very close to 500 records against each other since 2023. You can throw in the Phillies beat the Braves in the playoffs twice and lost to the Mets once. So, like, this is kind of... I don't know if anybody really has like a full advantage over anybody right now. You know, I think it depends on which outlet you're looking at or which preview you're reading. But I've seen, the Phillies and Braves kind of getting swapped in and out of that top spot, and the Mets are kind of like swapped between 2 and 3. Some people think they're ahead of the Phillies. Some people think they're lagging behind. But I think, this is a pretty evenly matched triumvirate in the NL East right now. And when you think about what each of these teams has going on, well, the Braves have this stacked core of all-star players. But they've got a similar thing going on in their bullpen in that they lost 2 arms. And they're hoping they already have a guy, Dylan Lee, who's going to take the next step, as the Phillies are doing with Orion Kerkering. They have no catching depth because d'Arnaud's gone. They don't have a lot of depth in general beyond their starters. They need Acuna to both come back and not need too long of a reboot before he starts getting going again. And they need Chris Sale to be just about as good as he was last year again. But people think the Braves got hurt last year and like that was it. That's the defining thing of the season. They won 89 games. They went to the playoffs.
Yeah.
They kept a 7-year streak of going to the playoffs intact.
Yeah.
And the only injured person they're probably still going to be missing on opening day is Acuna, who's supposed to be back in May. They had, so they know how to deal. And that doesn't even sound like they're going to be dealing with very much to start 2025. I don't think everything will go wrong for the Mets, but I think their offense will occasionally look unstoppable and extremely exciting. But that said, they're having their own depth issues beyond the lineup and the rotation. And I think their depth issues start when you're still looking at the lineup, not like who's behind it with the Braves. Their pitchers being gassed is part of why the Dodgers went kind of like right through them, and they didn't really address that too much in the offseason. And for the Phillies, the central theme in all these write-ups seems to be, boy, these guys are old. Bet they're going to suck soon. And obviously we're going to see better things for the offense than others, in the future, because this is a Phillies podcast. But that feels like a very lazy, hand-wavy dismissal to get out of breaking down this lineup that has all these like prolific hitters in it. The Phillies have a lineup that can be the hottest or coldest in the sport and that can change at any time. So that said, their strength is obviously starting pitching, where they have fewer questions than the Braves and more talent than the Mets. So I think in the end, to finally answer this question, the Braves have a better shot at being the Phillies' biggest problem, because during the regular season they have been, and very little truly slows them down. The Braves have better top to bottom threats across the board, and I think they'll be eager to get the lead back.
Liz, same question. Braves or Mets? Who's the bigger threat?
I don't know if I could follow that.
You have to.
I don't know.
I can't go back in time and have you go first.
No, I mean, I pretty much agree. I mean, I can't say it better than Justin said it.
Yeah.
I pretty much agree. The Mets are not a bad team. They're a good team. They have a lot of different strengths, but they didn't really address a lot of problems other than, a puzzle piece that was exactly the size and shape of Juan Soto. And they got that guy and they fit him right in there. And, they thought they were, all right, well, this is pretty much good. And the Braves are better than that. Much better than they're smarter than that. And they managed to re-up and reload with less money. Mm-hmm. They are very frustrating that way. But yeah, they're very evenly matched. It's one of the reasons why I'm excited for the season. Like, as far as narratives go, we're waiting for one to happen.
Yeah, I mean, injuries are certainly going to be it's always the possibility to upend one of these three teams like it did for the Braves a year ago. But like Justin said, I mean, they still made the playoffs. I think I undersell the Mets in my mind a little bit because they weren't very good for most of last year, but kind of got hot at the end of the season. I also don't love their starting rotation with Minaya being out and Frankie Montas being out to start the season. I think that's a big problem for them. Juan Soto is going to make a big difference. He's been a monster this spring. Like he's going to make that lineup deep. They're going to score runs. I really do think, I know Pete Alonso, people were down on him at the end of last year. He's losing a step. He's having that bat in the lineup is better than not having that bat in the lineup for the Mets. But I do look at the Braves. I don't think they're going to hit the way they did in 2023. Like I predicted a step back for them in 24 just because their numbers were so ridiculous in 23, but nobody saw that happening. But even before all the injuries started happening last year, the Braves offense was taking a step back. Like Acuna was struggling, Olsen was struggling, Arcia was struggling. Like they had some issues going on even before the injuries got to them a little bit. All that being said, I do think the Braves roster is a better roster than the Mets roster. And I agree with the two of you. I think the Braves right now are the biggest threat to the Phillies. And if you ask me who's better, the Phillies or the Braves right now, I don't know that I have a clear answer on that one just yet. Especially now that Spencer Strider is back and looking like Spencer Strider here in the spring. All right, question number 5. The Phillies announced on Monday that Zack Wheeler, not surprisingly, is the Phillies opening day starter here in 2025. Is this the year, Liz, that he finally wins the Cy Young Award?
No. Sadly. I want him to win one, but I think there's just always going to be a guy who's a little bit better. Not in any meaningful long-term way. But when you look at, you put everything side by side for just that season, there's always a guy who's just a shade better. But, you can't let that determine your legacy and the greatness of your career.
Yeah, go ahead, Justin. Yeah.
I would say yes, that it is. I think they want to give it to him.
Yeah.
I think at this point there's like 2 misses where he could have won it, but I think they want to give it to him, and all he has to do is make himself a legitimate candidate, and they'll give it to him.
That is exactly where I land on this.
So. I said I hope so. I would like that a lot.
I think he's the sentimental favorite now. I mean, you can't argue with Chris Sale over him last year. I think it was close. I think there were probably more arguments for Chris Sale than Zack Wheeler a year ago. Totally fair for Chris Sale to be the guy, even though he chickened out at the end of the season and decided he didn't want to pitch in the most important game of the season. But nevertheless, it was really in 2021 when Corbin Burns beat him out for it with like 45 fewer innings pitched and very similar numbers across the board with the exception of like ERA. That's the one where Zack Wheeler really got robbed. And I think he's widely, I think I've seen a couple of different, I know I've seen at least one tally of best starting pitchers in baseball, and somebody had Zack Wheeler at number 1. And I don't know that he's the best in baseball, but he certainly has been one of the 2 or 3 best starting pitchers over the last 6 years since coming to Philadelphia. So I agree with Justin. I think if it's close, if he has a year this year like he's had the last few years, I think this is the year Zack Wheeler wins it. Even if he doesn't finish with the most WAR, with the lowest ERA, I think he's the sentimental favorite to get it done here in 2025. Question number 6. Which Phillies outfielder will hit more home runs here in 2025? Nick Castellanos or Max Kepler? Justin, let me throw this to you first because you know me, I've always been a big Max Kepler fan. Love this signing since the first day it happened. I'm watching him rake in the spring, and all I can think is, I told you so.
Yeah.
We have plentiful evidence of this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So check the archives, kids. Check the archives.
I don't know if people really focus on the continuity of this show, as far as, things that have been said in the past and then hearing things in another episode and assuming it's always been, whatever. The point is this.
This is not a serial.
I think ultimately, let's think about this in a fun, positive way. Ultimately, Kepler hits 15, 20 home runs this year. Castellanos is good for 2025. but Kepler hits 2-3 a month, like all through the season, while Castellanos hits like 3/4 of his season total in July and August alone. Just because he has, and just looking at the splits again today, a lot of guys hit better in July and August. It's the height of summer and balls flying, hitting season. Obviously, is the term. Probably should.
I like that term.
That's
we should use that.
Of the
given that's
it is hitting
what
season.
we're talking about. But he has 58 career home runs in the month of August, and the second most single month total he has is 42 in September, and then after that, everything else is in the 30s. He has almost 60 career home runs in August. Like that's just when he hits. So I think he will hit more of them, but Kepler will hit more consistently throughout the season, a regular amount of Kepler home runs. You look at his numbers, and through various factors like injury, global pandemic, what have you, his home run totals kind of flexed from like 20 to 35 or single digits from season to season. So I'm kind of like hitting that middle ground where like when he was a healthier, younger player and like right around when he had that incredibly power-driven season in 2019, I think 15-20 is like a fair number for him. I like that. I mean, we're talking about Kepler again and our general attitudes towards him. I will just say again, we're going phase by phase here. We're not going to know if it's a success till it's the end of the season. But like, phase one was we need somebody for the outfield, and they're like, okay, it's Max Kepler. I'm like, oh, okay, well, is he going to be healthy? Okay, yeah, he's been healthy. Well, he's got to have a good spring. Okay, he's hitting 346 with 3 dingers in 11 games. Well, he's never played left field. I don't know. He doesn't look too lost out there so far. I mean, he did run into a wall today. And that also that negates both that sarcastic question.
Making your point real strong.
And the first one, as well, about staying healthy. But he ran into the wall competitively.
That's what he did.
Yeah, so I feel like the Max Kepler thing is going as well as it could be going right now for the point of the season we're at. So just to point that out there. But ultimately, Castellanos will hit more home runs. Liz,
do you agree?
I do agree. Not in that deep a way, but I do agree. I have a good feeling about Castellanos this year. I think it'll be a good year for him, and I think he'll actually show us that with his overall numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's going to be about how many starts does Max Kepler get. I mean, they're certainly going to face more right-handers than left-handers, and it certainly sounds like they want him to play every day. Same with Brandon Marsh out in center field, having those two guys. They don't want a platoon this year. And so Kepler's going to get a chance to play every day, but he doesn't hit. He doesn't hit against...
want a platoon. They certainly signed the wrong players for it.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like they decided, we'll just go all left-handed. Let's just go all left-handed. No, Castellanos, flip it around. You're lefty now. That's how we're doing this. I agree. I think it's going to be Castellanos. And I think it's, I don't want to be wishy-washy on Kepler because I still am not enamored with the signing, but I have to say the swing has looked very good in the spring. So I will say it's Castellanos, but I am more optimistic about Max Kepler now than I was a month ago.
John, optimistic is all you can be right now. It would be stupid to sit here and say this signing was a success because it's March 17th and he looks okay at the plate. I'm just saying for where we are, this is going well.
It's going well.
It's going well so far.
And I
hope St. Patrick's Day, this ain't bad.
That's right.
Yeah, what are you looking for in success at this moment? It would look a lot like this, which is what's actually happening.
I'm looking for a time traveler to step out of a portal and tell me the Max Kepler deal totally worked.
And that's right. The only thing we'd want him to come and tell us.
That's right. I don't need to know anything more about my future.
Or anyone's.
All right, let's move on to question number 7. Bryce, we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, but Bryce Harper once again reiterated over the weekend that he would be willing to move back to the outfield if it means acquiring an impact first baseman at some point in the next year or two. It could be as early as the trade deadline. Now, we're hearing more rumors and rumblings that the Blue Jays have re-engaged in contract negotiations with Vlad Guerrero Jr., who's set to become a free agent at the end of the offseason. If they don't get something lined up here in the spring, and the Jays fall out of contention, which I don't think that they'll do. I think the Jays are going to be pretty good this year, and they're going to have a decent season. But they could shop Vlad Guerrero Jr. at the trade deadline if it looks like the season is going nowhere. So all that being said, the fact that he could hit free agency this winter, and he would certainly be a guy that I would imagine every contending team that needs some pop would be after. Do you, Liz, let me start with you. Do you think Harper will ever play another game in the outfield this year or next year? And do you want him to?
I do not think he will play in the outfield this year or next year, and I do not want him to anymore.
Just because he's
straight up.
Yeah,
no,
first baseman now.
Like they've gone to so much trouble to get him at first base, to get Blesses there, to have him stick. He was, and everyone else thinks he's good too.
He's really
like,
good.
You know, but he's like, no, I'll move back if we can get an impact first baseman. Like, well, then what are you?
Right.
Like, we weren't signed as an impact first baseman, but guess what? Look at what position you play now. How do you want people to think of you? Whether or not you are that impact player anymore is a different story entirely. But you know, that's who he is now. Like,
right, but if you can turn him into an impact left fielder, and you figure out what to do with like a Max Kepler or Castellanos, but you make him an impact outfielder, which you don't really have, and bring in an impact first baseman, that's the rationale for doing it. Yes, he is an impact first baseman, but if you shift him and make him an impact outfielder and bring in an impact first baseman, now you've got two impact people.
Look, Harper's free to do anything he wants until it's proven to be a problem that he's doing it. It was my understanding, this is my general position on it. It was my understanding that the whole point of not playing in the outfield was for preservation.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Easier on his arm post Tommy John. I know left field's different from right field, but like, is that not the case anymore? Are we just not worried about that? Because I'm not seeing that getting brought up when they talk about him moving back to the outfield.
Exactly.
So I'm a little confused how this is all shaken out. Like, so there was this health emergency. He's got to have Rhys Hoskins' job, and we don't need to re-sign him. But well, if Pete Alonso's available, then I'll certainly go back to the outfield. Or if Vlad Guerrero's available, I mean, look. If Vlad Guerrero's available and the Phillies are like really intensely talking to him, then all this Rhys Hoskins emotional stuff goes right out the window.
Completely.
I would support that 100%. Again, I'm not saying I wouldn't want them to go after Vlad Guerrero, not at all. But it's just a confusing topic to me because I really thought the whole point was to keep Bryce Harper in his prime. You're buying like a year or two more of his prime, because now he's, going through less stress in his everyday position. But I don't know. Hey, whatever. If it makes the team better, I'm with Bryce. He's liquid baseball. He'll fill any space that you put him into.
By the way, have either of you guys, and I don't know why you would, because I hadn't until you mentioned Rhys Hoskins, and I was just kind of curious. Do you have any idea what his spring numbers are right now for Milwaukee?
No,
actually, no.
I don't. What do I?
11 games, 34 plate appearances. 6 home runs this spring. 10 runs scored. He's walking in 14% of his plate appearances, striking out in only 17% of his plate appearances. He's batting .310 with a .412 on-base percentage and a, wait for it, .931 slugging percentage in spring training so far.
I said not for the reason you probably think. I said for Rhys because if he's doing that now, that means he's not doing it in April or May.
True.
So the wheel spun and it landed on March, and honestly, that kind of sucks for him, knowing the kind of player he is. We talk about streaky players. He was the streakiest of the
he was the streakiest player. Only a 722 OPS for him last year in Milwaukee. So I do think the Phillies made the right decision, but at the end of the day, you're right. That was part of the rationale. Get Harper out of the outfield to protect his throwing elbow and his back. I mean, the whole, that's a big part of this thing with Bryce Harper that we don't talk a lot about. He didn't really have any back issues last year that I remember. If he did, they were like for maybe a game here or two where he had to kind of sit out. But, it wasn't like in previous seasons where he was out for a few days and you were like, is he going to be okay? Like I think some of that had to do with the outfield. So yeah. Interesting. Okay. Question number 8, Liz, who finishes with more saves? Jose Alvarado, who looks reborn this spring, or Jordan Romano, who looks unhittable this spring. Really, really good looking stuff from both of these guys at the back of the bullpen. One righty, one lefty. Maybe the Jose Alvarado redemption tour is here, but both these guys just throwing absolute pills at people. Who finishes with more saves? I guess this is the question, like, who's going to be the closer?
I'm going to say it's Jose Alvarado. Going with the nostalgia pick. Okay. I think it's him. I think the redemption tour is successful, and it manages to go concurrently with the Jordan Romano parade of doing well. I don't know.
Awesome. Yeah. Justin?
Yeah, I'll go with Romano. So far this spring, again, it's St. Patrick's Day. 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, and 6 innings. No earned runs allowed. He looks healthy, and if he's healthy, he's good. Healthy Jordan Romano was an all-star for 2 straight years. He had 36 saves both times. The most saves Alvarado has finished a season with is 13. So I'm saying Romano, and I think, again, as far as like guys they got and hoped they would bounce back, everything's going according to plan so far. So that's something to be encouraged by.
No, I agree with you. I think it's going to be Jordan Romano. I think that Jose Alvarado is going to be the guy that comes in to really kind of take care of those really tough lefty spots through the lineup, and sometimes that'll be in the 9th inning, and you'll kind of get the save that way. But you mentioned some of the numbers on Romano so far. Looking at Jose Alvarado's spring numbers so far, 6 games. He has thrown 6 innings so far. Guess how many strikeouts he has in 6 innings so far while I try to find that number.
10.
Liz?
12? I don't know.
15 strikeouts.
Oh!
I knew it was double digits.
15 strikeouts against just 3 walks and 2 hits allowed to 24 batters so far this spring. So, yeah, that's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. Fun Jose Alvarado with the towel chickens is back, I think, everybody. All right, number 9, looking kind of outside the Phillies right now. There is always a couple of teams that surprise, that do well. Last year, the Royals were my pick to be kind of that team, and they did play really well. They didn't go quite as far as the Tigers went last year, which was kind of surprising to everybody. And the whole AL Central was a big surprise, given they had 3 teams go to the playoffs. Who is your surprise team of the season this year, Justin? What's a team that, maybe nobody's really talking about or wasn't very good last year, but you like this year?
Ellie De La Cruz, Matt McClain, Brady Singer's in the rotation with Hunter Green, and a couple of potential high-ceiling guys, and Andrew Abbott, Nick Lodolo, and most importantly for the Cincinnati Reds, Terry Francona is going to have an impact as manager on this young group. That said, I do think they wind up burning out because De La Cruz doesn't really have a buddy to beat people up with in that lineup yet, and they'll find themselves unequipped to be this real playoff presence, but they've got enough of a pulse to be a real bug in the ear to the rest of the National League, and they have to play in that soft underbelly of the senior circuit, and the teams that have to play them when they are at their hottest are going to be mad. So yeah, I'm saying the Reds in the Central.
Liz, do you have a team?
I think it's going to be the Athletics. Excuse me, the Athletics, just to bother everybody. Myself, the people who live there, the players, the fans, non-fans, everyone will be bothered if they do well. And I like it.
Well, I mean, they got a they got a decent little roster. I mean, when they came into Citizens Bank Park last summer, right before the All-Star game, and it, they won 2 out of 3 and hit all those home runs. I think, we kind of looked at it as like, oh man, this team stinks. How did the Phillies struggle against this group? And the pitching staff still is very much a work in progress outside of Mason Miller for sure. They do have some interesting arms in on that team, but like they've got some actual real good talent there. Like JJ Bleday is an emerging center fielder that could be good. That really is one of the better young players in the American League. Lawrence Butler, they just signed to a contract extension. Brent Rooker looks like a really good player. I mean, they've got a lineup that's going to hit a lot of home runs. I like that pick a lot, Liz. My pick was going to be the Reds for a lot of the reasons you just mentioned, Justin. I'll throw one other team out there, and that's the Mariners. I know we have, the Mariners have been that team that's tantalized. You always want to pick them. Justin, I think you've picked them year after year to do something, and you're always disappointed.
I'm never getting back together with the Mariners the Padres.
You are out of the Mariners.
Ever.
And I don't blame you.
We ended messy, yeah.
But they're my pick to win the AL West. We'll get into our picks next week on the podcast, but I think this is the year the Mariners actually do come through, and they've got that great starting rotation. I know Kirby. Oh man, name flew out of my head. George Kirby, I think is banged up right now. He might start the season on the injured list, but overall, that team, I think, it could be a surprise in an AL West that's very winnable. That's a wide open division that anybody really could win out there out west.
3 young starters who are good enough that other teams will trade for them.
Yes.
At the trade deadline. That is a Mariners season.
That is a Mariners season. There's no doubt about it. All right. Last question of the podcast. The Phillies and Citizens Bank Park announced that there are going to be 3 new major food items coming to Citizens Bank Park this year. And I want to read them all to you, and I want you guys to tell me which one sounds the best to you and which one sounds the worst. Which one would you eat least? Rank them. All right. The first is Kyle's Cutlets. It is a chicken cutlet sandwich topped with creamy burrata, crispy fried pepperoni, and arugula, drizzled with a sweet and spicy hot honey sauce on a Lysio's bakery roll. A portion of the proceeds from every sandwich, by the way, will be sold to be donated to Schwarber's Neighborhood Heroes, supporting those who make a difference in the community. That's going to be located behind section 142 for those of you who care. So that's the Kyle's Cutlets. That's why Kyle Schwarber, Kyle's Cutlets. The second one is red velvet affogato.
Affogato, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, whatever. It's a dessert, red velvet cookies, vanilla ice cream, and espresso. That'll be located in the yard behind section 102. And then the final is a s'mores quesadilla with Nutella, mini marshmallows, and graham cracker crumble and a crispy flour tortilla served with a chocolate dipping sauce. That's section 142. So, Elizabeth, which one are you going for first?
Going for first is the red velvet affogato. That sounds really good.
A dessert. So you're a dessert person first over like a savory type thing.
Not usually, I would say, but I mean, the chicken cutlet sandwich sounds really good. But like at this time of day, what I want is dessert / breakfast.
Sure.
I like at this time of night when we are recording, the last thing I really want is pepperoni, arugula, and burrata.
A big bucket of crispy fried pepperoni sounds pretty good to me anytime. But I hear what you're saying. It's a little late at night. You get the heartburn right before you go to bed. You have something like that, give you nightmares all night. I get it. Mm-hmm. I get it. Is there any of those that don't sound good to you? Like the s'mores quesadilla? I don't know. It sounds like something I could make in my microwave.
Yeah, it's on a flour tortilla, which is normal, but sounds weird for a sweet thing. And it's also just it's like everything you've ever had.
Yeah.
It's every Nutella thing you've ever had, every s'mores thing you've ever had. And I don't know, my s'mores don't have Nutella on them.
No, it's
Nutella
chocolate.
is for lazy people when it's on like a professional menu. Come on.
I agree. I'm with you on all of that. Well, not all of that, but that's certainly on the s'mores quesadilla.
John agrees and supports every single thing I say at all times. Every single thing.
Justin, what are you grabbing?
I mean, I don't have the issues with Kyle's Cutlets at late at night that you guys seem to have. You had me at cutlet. Cutlet. I don't care if you're giving the proceeds to roving packs of feral dogs in the city of Philadelphia. I'm probably going to buy that sandwich. The s'mores quesadilla thing is I'm not super into the collision of two things that don't go together. The thing is, any of these items, I would eat them and go like, yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that. But
yeah, right.
On paper, that's like, oh man, a quesadilla and a s'more. Can you just name it something else for like a little more appeal there? Big affogato guy. I do like it, but I think at the ballpark, I'm going for Kyle's cutlet.
So what is an affogato?
It's like gelato with espresso poured on top of it.
Okay. Yeah, see, that's not for me. That's not for me. And for me, it's the cutlet also. I go, especially if I'm at the ballpark, that's what I'm going for. I want salty, I want protein, I want something filling, but I would never buy this because it's going to cost $65 for me to get a Kyle's cutlet. And that's the problem with something that substantial. Like the bigger, the heartier, the more rib sticking the food you get at the ballpark, you have to take out a loan in order to be able to buy it. Whereas where I think the s'mores quesadilla, has a chance to be the most, if it's not, it wouldn't come close to being the most expensive thing, but the most overpriced thing. Like I'm telling you, I could go downstairs right now and make myself a s'mores quesadilla in my microwave. It would take me 5 minutes. I've got chocolate chips. I actually have marshmallows right now in my cabinet. I have graham crackers because we did s'mores out in the fire pit earlier this week. And I have flour tortillas. I could go do that. I may go do that when we're done.
Let's all go do that.
Let's
and
all
see
go
what
make
we
a
each
s'mores
come back
quesadilla.
with. Our own personal interpretations of a s'mores quesadilla. Yeah, I feel like that's, yeah.
And then
That's
I'll
the only
charge
fair thing to do.
$15 for it.
This
Right.
is a great idea.
Well, you got to assume all of these things are going to be priced so that human beings can't consume them.
Correct.
Like, you got to remember that that's going to be part of it too. And
Correct.
affogato and quesadilla, I mean, okay, I guess they give you the location of where they're going to be sold, but they just feel like so much more like specialty items.
Yeah.
Whereas the Kyle's cutlets, I could see that like selling out. Well, at
Yes.
least at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
For sure.
I love a good chicken cutlet, man. Cutlets of any kind are great.
Yeah, that does sound really good.
Sounds really good. All right. I've got we'll finish up here with a little trivia question. This is, I don't know if you guys read Todd Zalecki's newsletter that he puts out. He's got a trivia question on it. And this was a good one. I thought this might stump you guys. I don't know if you saw it, then don't answer, but I don't know if you guys read it. JT Realmuto is expected to make his 7th straight opening day start for the Phillies on March 27th. I didn't realize 7 straight opening days for JT Realmuto. Who started at catcher for the Phillies on opening day 2018? That was the year before Realmuto started his streak. Is it Cameron Rupp, Jorge Alfaro, Andrew Knapp, or Wilson Ramos?
Are we working as a team?
Yeah,
Liz?
talk
Or are we-
amongst
okay,
yourselves.
all right,
Well,
all right.
I'll leave it up to you guys. You guys decide. If you want to make it a competition, go for it.
So wasn't Wilson Ramos 2020? Didn't they get him and the whole thing was like, oh, he was the AL starting catcher for the All-Star game this year. For some reason, I'm distinctly remembering that for...
No, that was a Matt Klentak. That was a Matt Klentak thing. I think from before 2020. Matter of fact, I know exactly when they signed him, but I don't want to. I'll give away the answer.
So I think it might be Wilson Ramos, based on how John just answered that question.
My first thought was...
Not necessarily.
My first thought was that it was Jorge Alfaro, because I remember he's the one that lost his job when they brought Realmuto in.
Well, he wasn't with the team anymore. He went in that trade, right? He went to the...
Didn't he?
Did not go?
He stayed with... Wasn't he with the team, or did he go in that trade?
Oh,
He
I
went
see.
in the trade.
He went in that
Sixto
trade. All right, well, then
Sanchez
never
for
mind.
JT
I'm remembering
Realmuto.
something else.
Yeah, it was Alfaro and Sixto.
In 2018. I'm gonna say something crazy and say C. Andrew Knapp.
Liz, final answer?
See, Andrew Knapp.
You're both correct. It is Andrew Knapp. Nap time. Wilson Ramos, you remember, was acquired at the trade deadline at 2018, along with that other Mets failure, that infielder.
Asdrubal Cabrera.
Yes, with Asdrubal and because remember, Wilson Ramos was like injured. He didn't play for the first month after they traded for him. He only started playing like in September, and he was awesome for the last month. But by that time, the wheels had come off, and we were playing like 6 first basemen in the starting lineup every day. Like Justin Barr and Jose Bautista was here for a while. It's all in the same lineup.
Season. Yeah.
Reese Hoskins and Cameron Ruppert. They had like 6 first basemen on playing in the starting lineup.
I feel like the Phillies are like a guy with 10 big toes. Like you just don't need all of those.
They used to be like a guy with 10 big toes. I feel like they've evolved since then a little bit, but
they've
yes.
definitely evolved. We're not talking about a lousy team here, but I don't know. Looking at the answers to this question, I kind of just fell on like Rupp feels like it's too far back. Alfaro went in the trade, and Ramos, I don't know, that timeline just didn't make sense in my head. So I went with Knapp, not because I remembered, but just because process of elimination.
Yeah, when I saw that question from Zalecki, I thought, oh, that's a good one. We have to talk about that one a little bit. All right, let's finish up with some final thoughts from you kids. Justin, any final thoughts?
Just one of the questions we didn't get to. You had originally wanted to ask NL East or NL West, what's better? And it kind of forced me to like look a little closer at the NL West because, instinctively we know the Mets and the Braves a little more intimately. And I don't know, it's almost like tougher for me to take them seriously. I'm like, yeah, no, those teams out west are probably better because we're just like a bunch of scrappy 88, 89 win teams that are going to be like knifing at each other. But I don't know. I don't know if I actually came up with a conclusion for this, but like the Dodgers are the Dodgers. D-backs have a great 1-2 in Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte. Josh Naylor slots in as the new cleanup guy with the power they lost with Christian Walker leaving. And the Padres almost eliminated the Dodgers in the playoffs last year, which also everyone forget. They were 1 game away from making that whole thing not a thing. And that lineup is full of guys you don't want to face. Cease, King, and Darvish. That's a playoff series rotation. Robert Suarez and Jason Adam in the bullpen. I mean, that's, again, very good. So I don't know. I think what it honestly comes down to is because the way the question was framed was like, are the Phillies, Braves, Mets, and Nationals a better top 4 than the NL West top 4, which would also include the Giants by default, because I also love that both divisions have a lousy team that could actually be the worst team of all time in both cases this year. I love Willy Adames for the Giants. I don't think Justin Verlander is going to pan out. And a more cohesive lineup doesn't give you a much more significant shot at the West, just potentially a more annoying. And I think they could be more annoying than the Nationals. So I guess I would give it to the West, but not by a lot.
Yeah, and I think what might put I still probably go East, but what would put the West over the top is how much higher are the Dodgers than Phillies, Mets, Braves. Like they're in their own tier, so they get maybe a little bit of a bump. And I think the Diamondbacks are much closer to Phillies, Mets, Braves than maybe we want to think they are. The Diamondbacks have a really good roster. They have a team that looks like they are every bit the World Series contender.
Yeah, I didn't even mention Corbin Burns going to Arizona.
Yeah,
they really just need a closer.
Yeah, right. If they find one of those or trade for one of those at the deadline, yeah, that's a problem. That team's a problem. Liz, final thoughts.
Our good friend Justin Klugh won an award. Yes, Justin Klugh won an award. The Saber Analytics Award for, where did it go? Historical Baseball Analysis Commentary Award for his article, Every Streak is a Part of History, published by Baseball Prospectus on July 11th, 2024. Justin, congratulations, sir.
Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you very much. It's my first one of those. There was a ton of people in those nominations who are all very experienced at winning Saber Awards. I am one of the few fresh-faced rookies in that group, and yeah, very cool, very exciting. Thank you to Saber for the award. Thank you for the nomination, and thank you to my editors over at BP, Craig Goldstein. Always very supportive and always holding up my work in ways I do not deserve. So this was very cool, very flattering. I couldn't be more thrilled. So thank you for mentioning it.
Well, it's nice to see them
network better.
Right. Well, it's nice to see them acknowledge. I think what Liz and I both know is that you are one of, if not the best baseball writer in the country. So I think the more people read your stuff, the more they'll know that. And Craig does speak so highly of you whenever I talk to him. So it's just very cool that you won. So congratulations, buddy.
We can open every show. You can now say award-winning writer Justin Klugh.
An award for you is an award for the show.
There you go.
Which is an award for me.
We all got stronger. We all got better.
We all got better today. We all got better on the back of
Yes.
Justin Klugh. We all got
Thank
better
you.
today.
Thank you all.
It is. I mean, I do my finest work sitting on other people's shoulders. So this is good stuff. Thank you for bringing us along. All right, everybody, look, that's going to do it for this edition of Hittin' Season. I want to make sure that you check out everything we got going on over at billypenn.com/Hittin' Season. That's our landing page there. And I've been saying it every week. The Phillies are winning the World Series here in 2025. So everybody keeps laughing when I do it. I don't care. I'm still doing it. Tell your family, tell your friends about the Hittin' Season podcast. If you've got any Phillies fans in your circle and they don't know about us, and you do, you're robbing them of joy. Get their phones from them. Subscribe to Hittin' Season on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you get your podcast. If you leave a 5-star rating and a review, we can read your review on the air. And you can also feel free to send us emails. hittinseason@billypenn.com. We've gotten some good emails, which I will read in the midweek podcast this week. So please feel free to send in any emails, any questions, any thoughts you have. You can even record a voice memo on your phone and email that in. I'll play it on the radio. I'll play it on the podcast. Midweek, and we can chat about whatever it is you have to say. But again, subscribe, rate, review, Hittin' Season, tell everyone about us. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time right here on Hittin' Season.